Hello, everyone, and welcome back. Today's Growth Gals Mastermind Education discussion is going to be great. I'm Maria Daniels, your expert in creative marketing, and we're here to inspire you to think outside of the box as you embark on your business journey.
And I'm Sharon Miller, your guide to mastering business strategies, leveraging Google tools for growth. And today we're going to tackle a critical topic of things you want to think about before you start a company.
Right. I mean, I think this goes without saying. Most of us kind of dive into this and look back and go, okay, we should have done this, and this. And that's why we're having this discussion, because starting a business is a significant step. And we're here to walk you through some essential considerations. Both of us are business owners. We've already made lots of mistakes, and we can look back and be like, okay, well, if we would have done this a little different at the beginning, this a little different at the beginning, we would have saved ourselves a whole lot of headache and honestly a whole lot of money. So this session is all about learning and growing together. So feel free to share your experiences or ask questions as we go.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with the foundational question, which is why? So we all have a why. Why do you want to start a company? Understanding your motivation is a key to staying focused and driven throughout your entire entrepreneurial journey, which is going to be one of many challenges. Let's just be truthful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know the why is the heart of every business. It's the heart of your business. And it's what keeps you going when challenges arise. So think about your why as being your motivation. It's the thing that motivates you. So think about it right now. Like, what motivates you? Is it the freedom of being your own boss? Is it the desire to solve a specific problem? Or maybe it's the opportunity to make a difference in your community.
Yeah. So knowing your why, it also helps you with the decisions that you make. It's part of your core value, ensuring that your business is going to grow in the direction that truly matters to you. And I think sometimes that's a really big thing because we don't think about the fact that we're doing this for a reason and we've got a passion behind it, but we've got to make sure that everything that we do within that business aligns with that passion.
Absolutely. Well, and I know one thing that I always say all the time, because it's become like so true, it's become one of my mantras, is we always start a business because of the one or two things that we do amazingly. And then we figure out very, very quickly all the things that we do not do amazingly. So owning a business comes with all of these things that even if you've worked in that industry before, you don't realize all those things are going on behind the scenes, and that can be a big wake up call for a lot of business owners. That is like, okay, well, I never had to do that when I worked my corporate job doing the same thing. Well, it was still happening. It was just going on kind of behind the scenes and you never knew about it. And these can be some things that are a big wake up call. That was a big wake up call for me. Like, oh, wait, I have to do that. I didn't realize that I needed to do that, and so kind of learning about these things early on is so important to do. So your why is huge, right? It's the heartbeat. It's the core of your very business. But then you need to be able to kind of move on to some other things. And once you're kind of clear on that why, it's time to kind of dive into some market research and understand just the landscape you're entering, because it's critical to finding where you fit within it.
Yeah. Right. Totally. And, not just knowing the why, it's also knowing who are your competitors in that market, because some people are like, well, I want to do this. And then they don't realize that like there's already a huge market out there. And then they get into it and they're struggling with their business and they didn't understand why they're struggling because they didn't understand what the competitive market looked like out there. And then also understanding that target audience, who are they? What do they need? What problems do you solve for them? And most importantly, how can you do it better than your competitors? Or why would they hire you instead of hiring them?
Yeah. And, being able to effectively do that market research helps you to identify the gaps in the market and the opportunities that are kind of in there. So, even if a market is super saturated, you'll typically be able to find like there's gaps, right? There's this area that's really kind of untouched. And that can typically be a great place to look at, because you look at it like an opportunity and then you're able to say, okay, well, maybe this is an area where I'll be able to succeed because other people seem to be missing this mark right here. And it's about being thorough, about being strategic, and not just following trends on things, but figuring out like, okay, well, if there's a gap right here, this is maybe a problem in this specific area that can be my niche.
Yeah. I mean, and then don't forget to test your idea. So tread the waters a little bit before you jump in. So whether that's, putting a couple surveys out there, whether that's online or to focus groups, or, do some kind of minimal viable product launch and see how it does. It's important to validate that the real demand is there for what you're going to offer, and that you realize, do I need to tweak it a little bit to get it to market?
Yeah, and I think that that is a great kind of landing strip for you to start to be able to take off, but don't take off yet because the next step is financial planning. And this is a step that can literally make or break your business.
Absolutely. Before you launch, you've got to have a clear picture on your startup costs and your ongoing expenses and what you're expecting and how you're going to turn a profit. Financial planning isn't just about managing your business's money when it's coming in, it's ensuring that your personal finances can sustain that early growth stage, because early growth stage is expensive. You didn't think about the fact that, well, I want to post, every single day on 5 different platforms. Well, the time that takes from you, or do you spend $40 a month and buy a software that can do it for you in 10 seconds versus it taking you 10 minutes or 20 minutes? Well, now you have a cost that maybe you didn't even know you were going to incur because you didn't do enough research to realize you were going to need it. So there's little things like that. And sometimes, that's really super important. And even understanding, how am I going to grow from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, or even get through the first 6 months. So, I mean, if you guys have an interest and you want, you can, send us PM us. And I've got, and I don't know if Maria does too, but I've got a 5-year, a 3-year, and a 5-year financial plan build out guide, as well as a product cost analysis guide that I share with people, that I'd be happy to share with you. If you want, just reach out to one or the other of us, and we'll get that to you. Because when you see that, you're going to go, I got to think about this and that, and especially when it comes to product pricing and making sure you have a profit margin left in the end of it. Because sometimes you're going to look at that and go, well, I need to be charging $1,000 for something I was going to charge $300 for. How did that happen?
It happens quickly. And I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had to talk with somebody, and I'm sure it's the same for you, where, they start this business, it's ready to go. Their stuff is crisp, clean, beautiful. It's got that brand new new business smell. And they're like, oh, wait, okay, well, the money's not rolling in, but my bills are continuing to barrel forward. And you have to have, like Sharon just mentioned, you have to have that solid financial cushion sitting there and a detailed budget, because if not, you are going to crash and burn very, very early. You need to consider all of your options. If you maybe need to get, funding, some type of, loan, or an investor, or maybe self-funded. There's pros and cons to each of those, and that we're not going to get into the details of that. But, just know there are options out there, but you do need to think about what you're going to do, because each of these paths there's challenges that go along with it, but it also, you have to have the money kind of laying there to be able to cover these expenses for quite a while. And I think that's a big eye opener for a lot of new businesses, because especially if you came out of the corporate world, you're used to receiving that, salary. It just magically appears, in your bank, direct deposit. And when you own your own business, that's not exactly how it works. There's a lot of steps that it takes to be able to make sure that you are getting paid. And, a new business is a very hungry baby. It's a newborn,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So it's eating every 2 hours, basically, the same as a newborn human child. So, it's one of those things that if you're not ready for that, it can take a lot of new business owners by surprise.
Yeah. And setting financial goals. I mean, if you say, I've got to bring in $3,000 a month, and you're selling a product that, once you do your product analysis and you determine what your profit margin is on that product after expenses and held off for taxes and all the other things that come into play, because let's not forget about Uncle Sam here, because he can sneak up on you really fast when money's coming in. You're going, oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
You have to say, I've got to close 10 clients in the next 30 days. And to reach my next goal, I got to build that 10 clients up to 15 clients over the next 6 months. And to reach my 1 year goal by the end of, come month 7, I got to be bringing in 20 clients. You better start figuring out how you're going to do it. If you put those short-term, midterm and long-term goals out there, they call it performa. By creating your performa, understand what the next 12 months look like, the next 24, next 36, then you've got an idea of what you've got to do to accomplish that. And then you've got to start building out a plan.
Absolutely. And it's critical to do that. And, we're going to kind of shift over to a little bit funner topic. And financials is never a fun topic unless you're an accountant. I know my accountant loves to talk that kind of stuff. And I'm just like, it's necessary though. And that's why we're having this discussion today, is because yeah, exactly. It's one of those things you have to think about. If you own a business, whether you like doing the financials or not, and I do not, there's still going to be some aspect of it that you have to be able to dive into. But our next segment, we're going to start talking about just building a strong brand from day one. And that is another essential aspect of starting a company. And, from day one, it's huge to think about, because your brand is more than just a logo. It is the overall perception that people have of your business. It is who you are behind the business. People do not do business with logos. Yes, having a nice, crisp, clean logo is great. It's going to be, great visually, and, having that palette set up, again, great. You want those things to be neat and clean. However, that is not who people do business with. Unless you're like Nike, nobody cares really what your logo is. If it looks okay, then that's good enough. What they care about is who you are behind your business.
Yeah. I mean, your brand needs to I can't even talk today. Communicate your value. So, again, the reason you started this up, but who you are as a person. And so, sometimes your brand has to make sure people feel that and they see that and they understand that. It could be through a photo or the way you talk about it. It could be the mission statement that you create. I'm not a huge mission statement person, but I sit on the board for a lot of nonprofits and stuff, and they've got mission statements. But somewhere within the way that you talk about your business and the way that people perceive you, and both through visual, through print communication, and through their experience with you directly, your mission and your values come up there. And then along that way, why you're unique comes out. And it's about creating a consistent experience that resonates with that target audience that you're going after. And I'm going to say this one time and only one time. And if you go back to listen to us for about 4 weeks ago, you're going to hear our whole brand speech in really great detail. You have to get to the point that you narrow down a target audience. Everybody thinks they can work with everybody, and that's true. But if you're not out there in your marketing and your website, Google, Facebook, whatever that is, and you're not telling the world who your ideal clients are, the way AI and the algorithms work now, it isn't sending you anybody just because it knows what you do. So that's my little soapbox. I'm gonna
No, and I love that. And I think that kind of ties it all in, because, and I'm not a big, mission statement person either. Now, to me, your mission, like, I don't have like it's something that we use that's a mission statement that we put out everywhere, like a lot of places do. And that's fine. It's just, to me, a lot of them are like the exact same thing. You change 2 words and it's like the exact same thing, which is fine, whatever. But you do need to, as a company, as a brand, understand, why are you doing this? Like, what are you here for? Like, what are you here for, and who really cares? You need to understand those things. And, really within your brand, you need to think about your visual identity. Like we talked about, like, your palette, your, logo, all those things that visually say, hey, this is who I am, but also your tone of voice. Like, what's your tone? Like, what's your personality of your brand? And really the emotional connection that you want to establish with your customers, because, a strong brand builds trust. And trust is a very foundation to a loyal customer base.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. And in fact, Marie and I have known each other a very long time. And when we go in places, we always joke around. It's kind of like good cop, bad cop. It's kind of like cheerleader. And I'm like the cheerleader and she's like the more serious. Let's get down the nuts and bolts. And that's why when we do consulting with people and we're trying to bring them through things, it works out so well because they get a little both of the hard notch parent, like it's get stuff done. And then the cheerleader behind it going, you can do it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think it's important to have that, right? It's important to, and I think that's a good example because a minute ago I talked about the tone of your business. If you're a one person business, obviously the tone of your business a lot of times very much reflects to your own personality and your own tone 100%. Now, if you're in kind of a group of people, we'll just use Sharon and I, for example, with Growth Gals, we have a lot of things that we think exactly alike on. And there's some things that we don't, right? And there's some things personality wise we're alike on and some things we're not. So the tone and the voice of the business may not be 100% either of us, right? It's a combination and it kind of develops its own personality. So usually if I'm talking to somebody about branding, I always try to have them think about their brand as just another entity, like another person, right? Like what's the brand, like what's that brand's personality? What's its personality? What do you want it to show up like what are you
Yeah.
honing in on? And it may be a piece of your own personality. It may be a combination of the whole team's personality. It may have developed a whole personality of its own. Whatever, you just need to know what the personality is.
Well, and as your company grows, it's going to evolve. So, I mean, where I was 20 years ago when I opened the doors of my first company, which was called Legacy Business Consultant, and we were a consulting firm, to what I am today, I would have never seen myself being here today. So you have to sometimes you got to let your company kind of guide you.
Yeah.
And because if you try to stop growth sometimes in a direction that maybe you're uncomfortable with, you may just be stopping your company from becoming something amazing. Because I never would have imagined in my wildest dreams that, number one, a company named Google would ever even start, more or less, that I would be, you know,
Yeah.
involved with a global, extreme top company out there that everybody knows the name of in the way that I am. And that my company would have shifted from being a consulting firm to being a marketing firm. Though we do a lot of consulting in the marketing world. I mean, let's just face it, but just be open to the fact that there's going to be evolving. Your business is going to evolve, it's going to grow, and stay attuned to how your brand is changing, and just make sure that you can make the adjustments with it and keep your value there. If it feels like it's not, then maybe it's time to to hire a consultant, help you rein it back in
Yeah.
and get it back aligning the right way. Because, having it take off real fast can be a blessing and a curse.
Absolutely. We
And
could have
hopefully
a
you're blessed
whole
with that.
separate. Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, that could be a whole episode on its own because I've, seen that happen so many times. But all right. So we went into some fun stuff with branding after talking about the financials. And I kind of tried to sandwich some fun in between the next segment, which we're going to be talking about legal and operational foundations. So that's another less glamorous topic, but it is absolutely essential to be able to really hone in on what does that look like for your business.
Yeah, I mean, and it's critical to choose the right business structure for you. And I've helped lots of people kind of talk about this over the years. I've taken legal classes and stuff and understand a little bit of that, aspect of how corporate alignment works. Contact an attorney, contact your accountant, talk to both before you decide which way you want to go. I mean, there's kind of there's a lot of different things around it. So like an LLC would be you're starting your own business, but the liability of being an LLC all falls back on you personally. So, if the business fails, they can come after you. If something happens and they don't like it, they can come after you. If you don't set things separate and make sure you secure yourself, your personal, property and stuff may be touchable in some respects, but almost everybody starts out as an LLC. At a certain point, you become an S Corp or a C Corp, and you begin to gain more corporate liability and less personal liability. And then there's partnerships. So, just know, is it just me? Am I just small? Am I staying small? Do I need to grow a little bigger? And then understand even the tax implications of, do I file as an LLC? You can be an LLC and file as an S Corp, which means your business files its taxes separately. So there's just so much in that aspect. You can go back and fix it later. Just know that. But it's really best if you log on and listen to a couple YouTube videos about setting up your corporation and how you want to set it up, or you contact an attorney, or you contact somebody who's going to be helping you with bookkeeping or your accounting at the end when you file your taxes, just so you have some information before you go out and register your business, and secure all the necessary licenses, and make sure you complete all the regulations that need to be completed. Because even when you file and become a business, there's some business documentation along the way that needs to be filed to prove that you created all of the business documents behind the scenes. So there's just a lot. And sometimes I say, if you've got the money, pay an attorney and let them get all of that set up for you. But for a lot of us, we just want to pay the $85 and move on. Please make sure you understand what moving on means to you.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot less expensive to go ahead and start out and have it done correctly the first time. So, if it's something you're thinking about starting out with, maybe just save up a little bit to be able to consult with that attorney for a little bit to get it structured, correctly. I mean, a lot of people may be fine, but I've, again, seen some horror stories with that. That's way more expensive. All right. So, when you have everything kind of set up, you don't want to forget about the importance of setting up a solid system and process structure early on. And whether that is your accounting software, your project management software, customer service protocols, being able to have these things in place makes scaling your business and running your business much more smooth. And it's going to actually cost you so much less in the long run on wasted time or things being missed, etc.
I mean, and when it comes to accounting software, I mean, there are free software that you can get as a startup company. There's a thing called CRM, it's customer relationship software, which is basically where you're going to store all the data around your clients. I mean, there's a lot of free software out there if you're under like 2,000 clients or something crazy like that, that you can have some of that software for free that you can then invest like maybe $30 a month down the line to do like email marketing campaigns and all that other stuff. But you start it with a free software that has the ability to grow in advance. So make sure you look into some of that stuff. Consult with professionals, whether that's an attorney or accountant, but also other business owners, and ask them, what do they use? How do they use it? That kind of stuff. Maybe log onto some free, like business, lives where you can ask some questions, and just make sure that you're lining your the stuff up that you're going to need, so that you don't get caught into paying for something that you could have had for free if you just did a little more investigating or asked a few more questions.
Absolutely. And, we're going to start wrapping this up, but I do want to leave you with starting a company is one of the most rewarding challenges that you can take on. And I say challenges because, again, I always equate it to parenting. I think that, to me, that always makes the most sense. And, just like with parenting, you have days where like, oh my gosh, I can't, believe that I get to raise this child. And you have other days where like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I have to raise this child. So it's the same thing, within your business, and being able to make it a little easier always makes that a little more pleasurable. So that takes careful planning and consideration, and also just focusing on your why and conducting market research and all these things that we talked about today, the finances, building a strong brand, laying down solid legal and operational foundations. When you do that, you're going to be much farther on your way to success.
Yeah. Preparation's everything. The more you plan, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the ups and downs of, your entrepreneurship. And the one thing I'll say is there will be car accidents that are going to total your car along the drive. And just know that there's a lot of people who've been where you are. So don't let the downs stop you from knowing that there's another up in your future.
Absolutely. Most business owners, if they're honest with themselves, will tell you that, yes, I have, fallen on my face. I've made lots of mistakes. I've cost myself a lot of money, but that listening to them will help you kind of avoid some of those same hurdles, those same mistakes. I want to thank you all for joining us today. And we both hope that this discussion's giving you some valuable insights. If you have any questions or need further advice, feel free to reach out. We're here to help.
Yeah, and don't forget to stay connected with the Growth Gals Mastermind and Education for more discussions and resources to help you through your business journey. Because next time, we're going to keep learning more and helping you grow.